So it'll be Demi Chalkis in the 34 on pole and the 77 of Nick Gallant as they work their way out of turn number 11 onto the front straightaway, and the green flag is up. We're underway in the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin.
Demi Chalkis involved in a little bit of contact with a late race collision in this morning's race. It looks to be giving up that top spot and maybe second spot as well heading in through corner number 1.
Again, these drivers unclear as to how much traction they will have with the slick Michelin tires. So Demi deciding to err on the side of caution just a little bit. You see the black nose on that car. That is a brand new nose fitted up. The team work to try and make repairs to that car as the TCRs and TCAs start to pick up revs here on the front straightaway. LP Montour and Richard Vogt lead them into turn number 1. Montour with a great jump. He'll go from outside to inside, and he'll lead them into turn number 1.
Oh, looks like the 52's gone just a little bit wide. Richard Vogt and others starting to slip down the inside as they come through corner number 2, and we're underway in all classes now in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada.
There is a story behind that number 29. You can see some black tape to the front corners of that car. LP Montour started on pole for race number 1. He admitted driver error. I made a mistake, he said. He hit the wall in turn number 11. First the inside wall, then the outside wall, causing significant damage to that car. So that crew has been thrashing to make repairs.
Good bit of shuffling at the front of the field with this TCR, LP Montour, Richard Vogt, and that looked to be the 66 of Gary Kwok that had jumped up into 3rd position.
Yeah, you can see Gary Kwok hanging on to the back bumper of the 84 of Richard Vogt, who did pick up the win. Look at Jack Polito up on the outside. Polito had a good run down that front straightaway in the GT4 class car. That Mustang flexing a little American muscle on the outside of the Mercedes AMG, and that's Olivier Montour, another one of the Volkswagen Golfs. He went for a big slide, and that looks like the entrance to turn number 8. Look at the skid marks, so all the way back to turn 7.
Drag race between the 22 and the 77. That is Jack Polito, who decides he had best tuck back in behind the 77 as they got through corner number 4, and now the left-hander through corner number 5.
Here's another look at what happened to Olivier Montour. Did he somebody get into the back of him? He did touch the wall with the nose of that car just slightly, so not much damage to the front, but it's odd that that car would snap loose where it did.
I couldn't tell if there was contact. If it was just enough to get that car turned sideways, but a very light brush of the wall by Olivier Montour. More door-to-door action now. That is the 98 car of Mark Wilkins, who is shoving it up the inside to take his position from the 52 car of Dean Baker.
Mark Wilkins, one of the visiting drivers from the IMSA ranks, coming off a podium finish at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as we take a look at the battle in the TCA class, and you can see those cars having a great dice. It looks like Hill is out in front once again in that one, as actually it's Eric Kuntz the last time they crossed the line of the 25. Hill, Vance, and Trell, your top 4 in the TCA class.
Back and forth battle between the 22 and the 77. It was Jack Polito at the line, but Nick Gallant is back out in front as they make their way into corner number 3. And the dice between the front 2 is allowing the 34 of Demi Chalkis and the 19 as Stefano Lucentu climb into this battle as well and make it a 4-car fight.
That's just showing you the parity here in the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin Series. And as a matter of fact, that partnership with Michelin just announced today was extended by 3 years. So growing the series through that partnership with Michelin, trying to attract new drivers to the series, showing the stability in this series. And what's great is that these tires that they use here on the GT4 and the TCR class cars and the TCA as well, same tires that they use in the US. So teams down there can start to look north and say, wait a second, if we have an off weekend, we can come and run with the SCCC.
They are the same cars, the GT4, the TCR cars. They are homologated, so they are competitive whether you're running in the United States, whether you're running in Canada. There's the head-to-head battle again. The 22 of Jack Polito just gets the nose out front as they go through corner number 1, and the 77 of Nick Gallant slips back out ahead, and Jack Polito stays right on that rear bumper.
We have to thank the people from TCR TV carrying us live here today from our stream, and of course this being carried on the FEL Motorsports YouTube page as well. And look at the 22 of Jack Polito. He picked up victories at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, looking to taste the champagne on the top step of the podium here at the Honda Indy Toronto. just as Gallant did in round number 1. And that's Kwok in the 66 with Mark Wilkins just in behind. The Brian Herta Autosport entry giving chase. See the Hyundai Elantra, and there's Bolt, who has opened up a bit of a gap. Dean Baker came into this event as your points leader in the 52. He's sort of mired in traffic, has to put on his work boots and get to work here. Now dives to the inside of Wilkins as the 66 of Kwok does smoke a little bit down on downshifts and going into corner number 3.
That is a big fight in the TCR battle between Gary Kwok, Mark Wilkins, and Dean Baker. That's 7th, 8th, and 9th overall, and it's let me see, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the TCR category.
And Nick Gallant still holding on to your top spot, still turning a little bit quicker of a lap, but not by much. Hundredths of a second, we're talking the differences in the lap times between the 77 of Gallant and the 22 of Jack Polito. Demi Chakas is in a battle herself, and a good one, for 3rd overall, 3rd in GT4 with Stefano Lucent in the Porsche. The GT4 car is working over the back bumper of that Mercedes AMG, unable to get by. And now we have a change-up here in the TCR class as Dean Baker has managed to get around not only Mark Wilkins, but he's managed to move past the 66 of Gary Kwok. So Baker goes to 3rd overall in the TCR class.
We talk about having to manage and navigate traffic, and it often isn't because of the traffic in your same category. It is usually when you come up on another classification in the Sports Car Championship Canada. But we're seeing that a lot of TCR cars having to find their way around the traffic now, and they are starting to get mixed in with the GT4s as well.
And the TCAs, as you can see, in the mix, as well as some of the leaders work through those traffic. And that's when you'll see these high beams get flashed. And look at Lucent to the inside in the 19. There's side-to-side contact. Not often you see that in this division as the 19 moved to the inside of Demi Chakas in the 34, and Chakas had to back down. She was forced to as they head down the back straightaway.
Up front of the GT4 category, it is still the 77 of Nick Gallant and the 22 of Jack Polito running nose to tail, and they too are starting to come upon some of the other slower cars. That is the 45 just ahead of them of Olivier Montour that the GT4 cars are trying to navigate through there as well, and also the 2 of Trevor Hill just ahead.
And Trevor Hill 2nd in the TCA class, trailing only James Vance, who took a win in race number 1. So another one of those IMSA names, a guest driver here in the SCCC for the weekend. James Vance stepping on the top step of the podium, a little wide for Trevor Hill. He gathers it up before making good friends with the concrete on the exit of turn number 8. And here comes Marco Cerrone in the 82 to the inside of Kwok. So Kwok seems to be having some trouble. That car is smoking. Under downshifting only, and Mark Wilkins is stuck behind that Honda Civic. He can't seem to get by.
Yeah, we wondered how the 19 is now along pit road. Stefano Lucente got past.
Oh, for the lead overall, and around goes the 77. Nick Gallant is up against the wall, not hard contact. He manages to refire and get it pointed in the right direction. 31 minutes left in this timed race, but contact with the 22 of Jack Polito.
Have a look at the replay. Jack Polito with the bold move up the inside has contact with the left rear of the 77 and gets that car turned around. Polito avoids it, takes the top spot. We'll see what the ruling is, and Trevor Hill again just misses calamity.
Oh man, Trevor Hill was caught behind a car, and then all of a sudden he came upon a vehicle pointed in the wrong direction. That vehicle was the purple Racing for Alzheimer's back number 77 of Nick Gallant. He managed to get it turned just in time, but wow, that could have been very bad.
Traffic all around this 1.786 mile circuit here at Exhibition Place, but now the 22 of Jack Polito looks to have found himself some open racetrack, and he's got lots of room both in front and behind him, and he'll be able to catch his breath after that dramatic corner 1 pass up the inside of the 77.
Yeah, because everybody had to check up around and behind the 22 of Jack Polito. That means he's able to stretch a bit of a gap now on the rest of the field. As we take a look again at that dice between the 66 of Gary Kwok, Mark Wilkins in the 98. It's a battle for 8th and 9th overall. And when you look at the TCR class, it's a battle for 6th overall, I believe, right now, is the 66 not picking up on our transponder. But doing the math, that's exactly where he's sitting on track.
Here's the 84 of Richard Boak, who was out in front, and he's being pursued right now by the 20th line of LP Montour in that Volkswagen Golf, and he is right also coming up on Gary Kwok. That is Mark Wilkins once again, who is still trying to find his way around Gary Kwok, and Mark Wilkins now tucked right up under the bumper, and look for him to try to move to the inside, but Gary Kwok has got that line covered, and I think driving a little bit with the rear view mirror.
Yeah, we should give a hats off too to Quinnitrell and that team. They managed to make repairs. That car was very, very damaged after race number 1, and the Hyundai Veloster N TCR car is back in this one. He's currently sitting in 11th in class, but just being out there is a Herculean feat.
And there's a little fender rub from the 98 of Mark Wilkins saying, excuse me, I'm coming through to Gary Kwok. He manages to get through and now makes his way past the 38 of Megan Tomlinson from the TCA class as well.
Yeah, you can see Kwok had to do a handful of wheel, a lot of steering to keep that car off the concrete, and he loses a lot of ground, but still a little bit of smoke showing from the back end of that 66. We'll have another look. And it looks like Kwok wasn't expecting the 98 to be there. He was right up alongside coming into lap traffic, and Kwok moved to the inside to get around Megan Tomlinson, but that hole was already filled by the 98 of Mark Wilkins.
I think Mark Wilkins had decided he was making the pass at corner 5, and he wasn't concerned about having enough room.
There's a look at your class leader in the TCR division. That is Richard Boak. He's already bagged himself a win this weekend, and can he do it again? He's got a lead on LP Montour by about 1.3 seconds the last time they crossed the stripe. Dean Baker is your 3rd place car right now in the 52.
Dean Baker, the championship leader for TCR, after having himself a pretty good weekend in the opening round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, picked up a podium result in this morning's race as well.
Look a little bit deeper in the field. That is another one of the Kwok entries, a 55 of Tom Kwok in a battle there with the Hyundai Elantra N TCR, the number 80 of Connor Atrell, and Connor looks a little bit quicker at this point, but he has to be patient. You have to really pick your spots to get around and make a pass here at the Honda Indy Toronto, just because it's so tight.
Being fast is one thing, catching the car is one part of it, but completing that pass is another, as we're looking now at a battle with the 48 of Ron Tomlinson, and that is the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto, nose to tail, with Ron Tomlinson trying to hold on to that position for 10th overall. Justin DiBenedetto is 11th and right on his bumper.
They look to be catching the 66 of Gary Kwok, as well as a couple of TCA cars just ahead. You can see Eric Kuntz making a move to the inside of the 8 of Jonathan Young. That is 4th position, so pick up 4th spot for Eric Kuntz going into turn number 1 in the TCA class. But look at how close DiBenedetto is to the 48 of Ron Tomlinson as they head down the Lakeshore Straight.
And now having to navigate their way through that TCA traffic as well, and I'm not sure that they're going to catch them before corner number 3, or are both of them going to catch? Yeah, good work there by the TCA cars to give those faster cars room.
Heads up mirror driving by both of those drivers, Young and Kuntz, and now once those drivers are through, they can resume their battle on track, which is what they will do as Justin DiBenedetto continues to put the pressure on the 48 of Ron Tomlinson. But again, as we mentioned, they are closing in on the 66 of Gary Kwok, and closing in fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part for Ron Tomlinson now, who's got to keep an eye on his rear view mirror for that 4 car of Justin DiBenedetto, but he's also got his sights set on the 66 of Gary Kwok, trying to reel him in and pull him a little closer.
We can tell you at the front of the GT4 field is the 22 of Jack Polito. Demi Chalka is sitting in 2nd spot. Nick Gallant has recovered for 3rd. Then as you look at the leaderboard in the TCR class, Richard Boak, LP Montour, and Dean Baker, your top 3 there. And in the TCA class, it's James Vance, Trevor Hill, and Bob Atrell. That's exactly how they finished in race number 1, is how they run now in race number 2 in the TCA class. Oh, Bob Atrell off the pace. The 88 is slowing. That Veloster TCA class car is off the pace right now. So Not good, not slow enough for a full course caution, but something mechanically has gone wrong in that car. It doesn't appear to be damaged in any way.
Something continues to smoke with that 66 car of Gary Kwok as well right now as he's ahead of Ron Tomlinson. The Tomlinson appears to be closing in just a little bit. I don't know, is it as he downshifts towards some of the corners? I initially thought it was tire smoke, but it seems unusual that it's coming on such a consistent basis. But this 88 car coming to a halt on track, I think is going to give us a problem, and we may need a full course caution.
Yeah, that's down the Lakeshore straightaway. That's where the 88 of Bob-Trell is currently slowing to a stop. So we're still under green right now as Bob-Trell continues to try and refire and get that car off the track. Again, there's no visible damage to that car. Obviously, something has gone amiss mechanically as Justin DiBenedetto stuffed right up underneath that rear tail wing of a fellow Audi driver in Ron Tomlinson, the 48 and the 4, and now full course caution as expected.
Everybody gets a chance to catch their breath, and the field will come together and get behind the pace car as they go out to find that 88 of Bob-Trell. Difficult way to end the day here for Bob-Trell. Great to see him back in the series after suffering an injury at a crash last year at GP3R, but his day will come to a premature end, but still nice to see him back driving in the TCA category this time.
They did have some issues yesterday during qualifying. They thought they had them resolved, but obviously something has reared up once again and is affecting the drive on that 88 car. There's a look at your overall race leader, currently leader in the GT4 class, and Jack Polito with that nudge on the 77 of Nick Gallant, sending the 77 around in turn number 1, has given him the lead as it sits right now. But we're going to head for a restart because we still have 23 minutes left to complete. And this shouldn't be a long cleanup. It should require just a push in, which is nice.
That's a lot of action for the first 16 minutes of this race from the Sports Car Canada Championships. And a lot of activity in all categories as well. We had lots of door banging in the GT4 category. The TCRs were not shy about fighting for track position, and some good TCA battles as well all throughout the field.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. No matter where you are on this racetrack, you're witnessing a battle in one of the 3 classes here in the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. And 3 of these drivers will step atop the Braden Motorsports podium later on this afternoon. But again, they'll have another race coming up tomorrow, which is it's interesting because we talked about how they want to save their car early this morning. You know, you have the second race of the day. Now, obviously, the intensity has picked up because you have all night to fix the car before you have to come back out tomorrow, right? Is that the way it works?
Sure, we'll go with that. I just think it's a natural progression through the weekend. The more times you get out on track in a competitive situation, I think the more the intensity goes up, and I think we're certainly seeing that here today as we're watching the 44 of James Vance circulate. He is the leader in the TCA category, won the TCA category this morning. He's followed by the number 2 of Trevor Hill, and the 25 of Eric Kuntz are the top 3 in the TCA category.
You're hearing all these classes and the names being thrown out: GT4, TCR, TCA. So we'll give you an idea of how to differentiate between all these cars. So the GT4s are the Ford Mustangs, the Mercedes AMGs, and the Porsche GT4s that are out there right now. They have about 540 horsepower. So they are the top of the heap when it comes to horsepower. 6-speed sequential gearbox, rear wheel drive. They have adjustable ABS and traction control, and they are the quickest in a straight line on a longer track. This is a tight track, so it really benefits the TCR class cars, who's still very powerful at 350 horsepower. It comes from a 2-liter turbo inline 4-cylinder, a 6-speed sequential gearbox, all front-wheel drive cars in the TCR class. And that makes them so much fun to drive because the front wheels are doing the power delivery, the steering, and all the braking as well. And then the TCA class, as we mentioned, it's a brand new class in 2023, more of an entry level into the SCCC, about 220 horsepower from a 1.5-liter turbo inline 4-cylinder, a 6-speed manual gearbox, so not sequential, a fixed ABS on those cars as well. So great place to learn, and then you move up, and then you move up once again. So that's sort of the class breakdown here in the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin.
And we talked a little bit about the affordability of introducing the TCA class as well. $40,000-ish would be an entry-level price point to get into sports car racing. Very achievable for those interested in pursuing if you're moving up, be it from formula cars, be it from karts or some other discipline. Certainly a lot more achievable than trying to jump right in at the TCR or the GT4 category. But it's been great to see the response to have the TCA cars. As mentioned, Bob Trell in one, and James Vance giving up his time off from IMSA and pursuing that career to come back and jump into the TCA car this weekend.
Yeah, it's super cool. Mark Wilkins, as we mentioned, and to have the manufacturers back these sports cars as well. You have Volkswagen, you have Audi, you have Hyundai backing cars in this series, and they love it because it proves what they build actually works, and we're going to prove how well it works in a second. As we go back to green, you can see Quinnitrell in one of those Hyundais heading down pit lane following the pace car. So obviously some issues after earlier trouble in race number 1. The GT4 cars will open a bit of a gap on the TCR class as they head back out of turn number 11 onto the front straightaway, looking for green once again. 19 minutes left to go in this timed race.
And everyone in pursuit of the 22 of Jack Polito, the 34 of Demi Chalkas, the 77 of Nick Gallant, quickly getting around the other cars. That 29 car getting swallowed up, LP Montour, and we'll see if those 3 GT4 cars are going to fight as aggressively as they did in the early going. Jack Polito trying to put a stop to that by putting a bit of a gap between him and second place, but the fight for second looks like it's headed for corner number 3.
And it looks like it will be Nick Gallant in the 77, moves to the inside. That purple, yellow, and white Mercedes AMG will pick up second in GT4. Now he'll put the chase back on the 22 of Jack Polito. Does Nick Gallant have a memory as to what happened about 10 minutes ago in this race, sending him backwards in turn number 1? Demi Chalkas is going to slot into third position right now, just ahead of class leader Richard Boak in the TCR.
You talk about the difference in horsepower and the front-wheel drive aspect of the TCR cars. The only long straightaway where you get the real effect of the horsepower is, of course, along Lakeshore Boulevard, and that's why we're seeing the TCR cars and the GT4s remain so competitive and the fields mixed up so much right around the circuit.
And if there's dampness on the track too, you really can't deliver all that horsepower to the ground, so that really affects a car like Demi Chalkas, who's coming under pressure now from the 84 of Richard Boak. Boak knows he doesn't have it. He's got to back off, but Boak has to keep the pressure up on that third place overall because he has a Volkswagen filling his rearview mirror. LP Montour hungry for redemption after trouble in race number 1.
Where you're likely to see Demi Chalkas pull out a bit of a lead on the 84s here along the long straightaway, but the fight in behind with LP Montour and Dean Baker is being waged right now. Montour trying to go up the inside. They rub fenders. Montour will take the spot in corner 3.
And Baker made contact with Montour on the entry of turn number 3. But look at this. As they dice together, it costs you so much in momentum. Marco Cerrone in the 82 was right there, ready to make a move on the 52 of Dean Baker. He had to back off, though.
Here's a replay of that pass from LP Montour coming up the inside. Dean Baker tries to close the door by moving over just a little bit. Montour will have none of it. He'll take the spot, goes a little bit wide, but does manage to hang on.
Top 3 still all single file. Now the TCR classes sorted themselves out just a little bit. Richard Boak able to open up a bit of a gap now on the 29 of LP Montour. Dean Baker in the 52 tucked in behind there. They're single file headed down this front straightaway, all chasing the 22 of Jack Polito. About 1.7 seconds out in front is that Ford Mustang.
And Jack Polito will be happy for the breathing room as we watch and look a little bit further back. There is the fight as well with the 4 car of Justin DiBenedetto once again, and that is Ron Tomlinson, who is trying to slam the door and does on DiBenedetto going into corner 1.
2 big black marks laid down on the inside headed into turn number 1, and that is what's left of the Michelin rubber on Justin DiBenedetto's Audi as he jumped hard on the brakes to avoid contact with the 48 of Ron Tomlinson. DiBenedetto was working so hard to make a move, and now look, Tom Kwok in the 55 will take a peek on the inside at turn number 3. Not enough there to complete a pass.
But those two ahead of him fighting, the 48 and the 4, has allowed the 55 to climb back up and get a little bit closer. And look, there's the 80 of Connor Attrell, who has also joined the fight.
Yeah, Connor Attrell was battling with the 55 of Tom Kwok before we had that caution period for the stricken 88 of Bob Attrell. And Connor now resumes that battle with the 55, but again, all within striking distance of that dice just ahead, too. And here comes Justin DiBenedetto to the inside. Not a place you'd normally see a move. That's on the inside of turn number 9. A little bit of side-to-side contact, and the move is complete.
I want to hear the story about this one in the pub afterwards. No, I made the pass to the inside of corner number 9. No one will believe it, but we just saw it happen. And oh, there's the 80 of Connor Attrell, who is hard up against the outside wall, coming through corner 11. That is a big hit.
Yeah, and this will require a full course caution. There's loads of debris littering the track on the exit of turn number 11. Shut off is that Hyundai Elantra NTCR. Connor Attrell in the Quaker State number 80 has obviously made hard contact with the outside wall, and he wasn't far behind that battle where Justin DiBenedetto moved to the inside of Tomlinson. You can see he's on the outside of the 55 of Tom Kwok, and that's a one-groove area of the racetrack for sure.
Just carrying too much speed through that part of the corner. If he was going to carry that much speed, he would have to be much closer to the inside apex of that corner. Of course, that space was occupied by Tom Kwok, and that's what's put Connor Attrell into the wall, brought out our second full course yellow of the day. That is a disappointing way to have your day end, but looks like we've got Connor moving around, and here's another look at it again. Carrying too much speed on the outside and scrapes the outside wall in that 80 Hyundai.
Yeah, the good news, the back wheels don't necessarily do anything. They're not hooked up to a transmission. They're not hooked up to steering or anything like that. They're essentially slave wheels. The front wheels do all the work. You can see it is leaning over fairly heavily on that right-hand side. But in the time leading up to that, we got a quick flash of it during the live action. You saw the 55 of Tom Kwok. Just as the two cars made contact ahead in turn number 9, Tom Kwok went really wide in turn 10. That essentially opened the door for Connor Attrell to try and make that move, but Kwok came back. So have a look. There's the 55 way to the outside. So he's trying to make a move on the outside of Ron Tomlinson. That sets up the side-by-side into turn number 11.
Hard to really assign any blame for that, and that no one really did anything wrong. It's just where they happen to find themselves on the racetrack, because you're right that Tom Kwok makes the bit of the error through corner number 10, and then as he slows down, he gets back onto the racing line, and he is lined up properly for the corner. There's no need for him to give way further to the 80 of Connor Attrell. It's dare I say, a racing incident.
Yeah, I think it might have been. If it happened anywhere else on the racetrack, I think we would have been fine and resulted in cars that aren't necessarily wadded up. As the 80 sits, you can see that right rear tire is definitely pointed the wrong direction. So will be some suspension work happening in that Attrell tent overnight tonight. Thanks very much to the fans for joining us here on this unsettled weather day, but it's a day at the racetrack and can never be unhappy with a day at the racetrack, right?
They have been treated to plenty of action in every series here at the Honda Indy Toronto this weekend. Started off this morning with the Sports Car Championship Canada and is continuing this afternoon. It remains Jack Polito out in front, Nick Gallant in the 77 and the 34 of Demi Chalkas, who lead in the GT4 category. Richard Boak running first in the TCR, followed by Dean Baker and LP Montour. And as we scroll down and look a little further in the TCA class, it is still the 44 of James Vance out in front, followed by the 2 of Trevor Hill and the 25 of Eric Kuntz as we remain under full course caution. Safety crews now on scene to deal with that number 80 car.
Picking up the fiberglass pieces and the bits of carbon fiber that have been shed from the 80 of Connor Attrell in turn number 11 after contact with the outside concrete. He is out. That's good news. You can see him walking around, and he'll now assess the damage as the safety crew comes out, gives him the all clear, says it's safe to jump out. That's why the drivers don't get out right away, is because it's still a hot track, and it obviously puts them in danger. So we've got Just under 11 minutes left in the time clock, and we'll keep an eye on that for you because we continue under this full course caution, and as we do, the clock continues to tick down.
We did have a bit of a delay getting a crash cleared in corner number 11 in this morning's race as well, but the crews went to work, hustled, and did get us back to green so that we could have a green flag finish. So hopefully, being on scene with that car, still having over 10 minutes remaining in this timed event, we'll still get a little more green flag running before the end of it.
Now you can see the drivers still weaving side to side. They're still trying to keep as much heat in these Michelin tires as they possibly can, anticipating that they will go back to green. There's a good look at the 84 Blanchet Motorsports, backed by FAB Technologies. That's the Audi of Richard Boak. Again, he took a win in race number 1. He's looking to go back-to-back here in race number 2. He'll have Dean Baker, though, challenging as they go back to green. LP Montour in 3rd spot. As you can see, it will be the 77 of Nick Gallant. If we do, in fact, go back to green, which we are anticipating, we will have some green flag laps to settle this. He will start directly behind the 22 of Jack Polito. That is going to be a storyline we'll watch on this race.
Absolutely. We saw the 84. The right side of that 84, driver Richard Boak on the Blanchet Motorsports car looks perfectly intact, but if you noticed on the driver's side door, that fiberglass was a little wrinkled up, and there is a black donut along the side of that road, just to give an indication of the kind of aggressive racing that we have seen so far today.
It's a street course, and these drivers are in for a street fight. Sometimes when you have a street fight, you tend to get a little dirty at times, or these cars get a little dirtied up, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So it is just essentially cosmetic damage to that car. There's nothing severely amiss on the 84 of Richard Boak. It just goes to show you how hard these drivers are pushing to try and reach victory lane here in the FEL Motorsports Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin.
We saw it as well just behind Richard Boak with the 52 of Dean Baker and the 29 of LP Montour after that last caution period on the restart. It was the 29 muscling his way forward in corner number 3, moving Dean Baker back. He has since jumped back ahead of LP Montour, currently running 2nd in the TCR category, following behind Richard Boak. Mentioned Dean Baker, leader of the championship, after having himself a pretty good weekend in the TCR category at the series first weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Podium 3rd place finish and 2 first place finishes in the TCR category.
Saw a good look at James Vance in the 44 and FEL Motorsports emblazoned on the back end of that car. As a matter of fact, the series has 2 of the TCA class cars, one driven by Bob Attrell, the other one driven by James Vance, and that's to promote the TCA class. They said if they want to attract more drivers, they have to show what it's like to have all these cars on the track. So they purchased these 2 Hyundai Veloster ends, and one driven by James Vance. Again, to victory lane in race number 1, as the 2 car of Trevor Hill has had some company. Trevor Hill really had his way with the field in race number 1 at CTMP, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, to start off the season. He's sitting in 2nd now. That's where he finished in race number 1, and he's got some work to do to try and get around the 44.
A lot of work and help with FEL Motorsports and Brian Herta Autosport as well. That's part of the reason why Mark Wilkins is here, of course, competing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series for Brian Herta Autosport, and in a championship fight in that series as well. But very excited to be here racing on the streets of Toronto. He hasn't raced here in sports cars in an awful long time. I believe it was 2014 the last time he raced here. Talking with him last week about it, he said it was one of the closest races ever. Finished ahead by about a 10th and did get the victory of the race.
Well, to give you an idea of how closely stacked these cars are, in qualifying, it was hundredths of a second between the top 2 in the TCR class. So we're not talking about tenths, we're not talking about seconds, we're talking about hundredths of a second between best laps between the top 2 qualifiers in the TCR. That's what makes this series so great, is just how even these cars are. And again, it doesn't matter the manufacturer. You have an Audi, you have a Volkswagen, you have a Hyundai, you have a Honda. They're all in there, and they're all relatively equal as far as power, as far as weights, and as far as overall lap times go.
That was a good look at the 98 of Mark Wilkins that we mentioned, just coming through there in those Hyundai Brian Herta Autosport colors, currently running 5th in the TCR category, and not afraid to mix it up either. It's it's a one-off. He's not running for championship points, so had himself a good battle earlier with the 66 of Gary Kwok, so we'll see how aggressive he gets in the remaining 5 minutes. 21 laps complete, and hopefully nearing the end of that cleanup to get a couple of more green flag laps in before the end of our time.
We'll talk about the IMSA guest drivers like Mark Wilkins, like James Vance, running here in the SCCC today. But we also have to talk about some of the other guest drivers that have been signing autographs in the pits over the course of the weekend. Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear have been hanging around the FEL Motorsports tent, meeting fans, and of course those two have a long history together.
They do indeed. A very famous battle at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with Al Unser Jr. coming out on top. They talk about it now. They're okay with it. 30-plus years later.
Al Unser Jr. is okay with it.
Fair
Scott
enough.
Goodyear.
Even Scott Goodyear has come to a resolution about it. He was not happy afterwards, but he's understood the significance of the race now. And they'll be here again tomorrow as well. They have an autograph session at the FEL Motorsports paddock area coming up tomorrow morning as well, in advance of the final Sports Car Championship Canada race tomorrow.
Yeah, so that autograph session will be at 10 o'clock. The drivers in the FEL Motorsports All Series will be held at 10:30. That's at the FEL Motorsports trailer if you're coming down to the Honda Indy Toronto for a Sunday. And of course, as you mentioned, there will be one more race coming up tomorrow, and it will be at 12 o'clock even, so right at noontime. Pack a lunch and come sit in the grandstands. Race number 3 will be another 40-minute timed race for the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. Clock continues to tick down. Now about 4 minutes left in this one, and the light's still on the pace car, so we're not going green this time around as that cleanup continues in turn number 11. We'll see how much is still there. Crews were still working the last time we made a lap around. Hopefully they've made some progress right now. That red and yellow flag indicates there may be fluid down on the track, and the waved yellow obviously is a full course caution. It looks like they had to bring out the flatbed for this one.
The damage may have been significant in that they could not pick it up on a traditional tow truck, and yes, they do have it up on the rollback now, and they're just trying to secure that 80 of Connor Attrell to get it removed from the track.
Good news is the paddock area is just down the track, so it's a quick run down that straightaway, a right-hand turn just before they hit the start-finish line. And so if they get it secured on that rollback, they might be able to go green. We'll keep an eye on this pace car and see. With 3 minutes left, that should give them a couple laps at least. A minute 18 is the best time for Jack Polito, so yeah. We're going to see the white flag this time by, though. I believe is what we're being told. So that time by was the white flag. So it looks like we are going to finish this one under caution. Unfortunate, as it's already the final lap here for the Sports Car Championship Canada. I was hopeful. A little bit of optimism never hurt, but it looks like Jack Polito, as long as he maintains his caution car speed, he will be crowned the winner. Top step of the podium. Richard Boak in the 84 will win in the TCR class. And we look back, it'll be 2 for 2 once again. So Boak wins his second of the weekend, and there is the 44 of James Vance, who will also pick up the winner's trophy for the second time this weekend.
Yes, they'll continue around and complete this lap and then accept the checkered flag, and it looks like as long as everybody makes it through and crosses the start-finish line under the checkered flag, they will finish in the current position they are running in. But this also does is leave a little unfinished business for the third and final race of the Sports Car Championship Canada coming up tomorrow. As we mentioned, they will go green right at noon. It's a 40-minute race. Will Nick Gallant remember overnight that Jack Polito roughed him up along the inside of corner number 1 to take that spot? I'm pretty sure he will. Will LP Montour and Dean Baker remember that they went door to door and battled in corner number 3? I'm pretty sure they will, and we'll see these drivers back on track tomorrow.
Yeah, it's how much they think about it when they go to sleep tonight and think about how much they could have done to change the outcome of this race. And I think one more restart would have vastly changed at the front of the field of the GT4, because I think Nick Gallant would have driven it in a ton in turn number 1, as we will see the checkered flag, double checkers here now for your race winner. Overall is the 22 of Jack Polito, so he does take the win here in the GT4 class. Richard Boak will come home the winner for the second time this weekend in the Blanchette Motorsports number 84. And here comes James Vance to cross the line in the 44, and he will win once again in the TCA class here in the Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. But a little bit of a...
Well, it is a little disappointing that we did not get a green flag finish after that hard hit by the 80 car of Connor Luttrell. That was a significant impact, and good to see him climb out of the car okay. We did have 30 minutes of outstanding action right from the drop of the green flag. We had TCR cars mixed in with the GT4 cars. We had TCA cars who were battling for position as well. A great battle between James Vance and Trevor Hill, and we had lots of action with Dean Baker and LP Montour, Marco Cerrone in there, Mark Wilkins mixing it up with Gary Kwok, and I think every GT4 car had a turret at the front at some point.
I think you're right, and that just makes us thirsty for more and thirsty to come back tomorrow afternoon. 12 o'clock is when we will bring you race number 3. And once again, thank you very much for joining us on the live stream here. We are on TCR TV as well as the FEL Motorsports YouTube page. And once again, thanks to the fans for following along here in the FEL Motorsports Sports Car Championship Canada.